should be we should be broadcasting now on Facebook, and we are broadcasting now live on Facebook. Thanks for joining us, the Bearing Drift Roundtable. We'll get into routine flow now that we're closer to the election. Great to have you all with us here. Matt Walton, Matt Hall, DJ McGuire, and Chris Noe. Let's get into the subjects if we can, because we've got a baseball game tonight we have to get our attention to. So one of the things we can still do in America is watch the World Series. Thank God. Let's talk about the Virginia congressional races. We'll just go in numerical order: 2nd, 5th, and 7th. Let's go because I'm moderating debate tomorrow between Elaine Luria and Scott Taylor. What do you think of that race? Let's go to Matt Hall.
I also think we should mention the 1st district because I think that race is closer than anybody's making it out to be.
Well, we'll get to that after the next 3.
Okay. Okay. The 2nd district.
You want to talk about anything else? You want to get on the deck here, Matt? You want to just talk about New Mexico too while we're here?
All right. I apologize. But I think the 2nd district, I think it's close. I think Scott Taylor's doing a good job. I think that he's landing every punch. I think the Walton poll was crap. I think it was absolute crap. It was a bad poll.
Why do you think it was a bad poll, Matt Hall?
Because that race is so much closer than they're making it out to be. The military ballots are going to come in, and it's going to be much closer.
Do the poll. I mean, break down the poll and the methodology, because I do think there are some problems in the methodology, and I've heard differing opinions on inside polls. So I think it might be. I think it's going to be closer than 7 points, but we'll see. What do we think about that one, Matt Walton?
Well, I actually watched the both congressional debates last night, in the 2nd and 7th, and I think it is probably, I would say Lori is probably up by 4 to 5 would be my guess. She put together a good debate. Taylor actually put together a good debate as well. It was a good back and forth exchange last night. I think we're going to see it come down probably a 3-point win, maybe 4 on Elaine's side. Just given the surge of turnout that we're seeing across Virginia and the vast numbers of new voters that are coming out as well.
DJ?
I do find it interesting that Matt now has no confidence in Walton polling, considering 4 weeks ago, Walton Center had the best polling for Donald Trump. Everything since then has him down double digits in Virginia. I think it is possible Lori is up 9 now, but I don't think she'll stay up 9. She's the incumbent. Taylor is the challenger, so Scott will probably pick up some late election day breaks. I don't think the military vote is going to rescue him. The one thing we've seen out of the Military Times, and granted it's an older poll, actually has Biden ahead among service members. I think the bigger story, though, in this poll was that Trump was down 9 in the district. He carried the district by 4 years ago. It is a sign that Donald Trump is in very, very deep trouble in suburban districts and urban districts. So I would say she wins by about 5 or 6, but that's in part because of the revulsion to Trump that's going on in the district now.
Chris Noe, anything for you?
Just my parents live in that district. So, I have a little bit of the parent insight. And, it's a lot of retirees who are down there who are, they're watching out for their health care and retired military, and some of the changes with TRICARE are not sitting well with that constituency. So I don't think that I think they're leaning left this time.
Okay. I have no real feel on the election whatsoever, other than following the trend line nationally and the size of Taylor's win 4 years ago, Trump's turnout, the very different methodology in the Walton polling. If they didn't take that subset from the 2016 voter file, I don't know how they get to what actually happened relative in a presidential cycle. So that being said, I did hear that Elaine Luria was on the attack last night, which would indicate that she's not necessarily in a firm grasp of the lead. So we'll see how that plays out if it does at all. We never know how the debates actually move the needle anymore whatsoever because everything's been so nationalized and so negatively partisan. Let's move to the 5th. Definitely a closer race. The average polling, I think, is showing that Kim Webb is slightly ahead. What do you make of that, Chris? Noe, we'll go back to you.
I mean, I just think that it's still, there's going to be some blowback in the 5th after what happened with the Republican primary, and I think you're going to have, with the firehouse, and that you're going to have some some folks who feel like they were disenfranchised in that process, and they may be looking for a revenge vote.
Right, DJ.
Sorry. I figured people didn't want to hear me clear my throat all the time. I don't have as good a feel on the 5th. And while I would love to see Cameron Webb win, I usually don't get what I want in politics. So I do think good is being hurt by the divisions within the Republican Party. I just find it hard to believe that a district drawn like that can actually go to a Democrat, even one as good as Webb. But it'll be nice if I'm proven wrong.
Matt Walton.
I've been on record, and I still stand by my original statement when we had Dr. Webb on with one of our panel discussions that he will win. I think it will be roughly a 2.5 to 3.5 point victory for him. Right now, you're seeing a surge in early absentee voting in the Charlottesville area. You're seeing the fact that the ethics issues that are coming up with Good regarding his time on the Board of Supervisors down there in Campbell County, that's hurting him considerably. So I am seeing, like I said, a 2.5 to 3.5 point victory for Webb. Here in the Richmond area, he's actually got TV ads going on, and they are very good and effective, mentioning both President Trump and President Obama. That messaging works, and I think you're going to see Webb go to victory.
Matt Hall.
Can we just all agree that Bob Good is the worst candidate the Republican Party of Virginia's ever ran?
Gave Corey Stewart a run for his money.
No.
Whoa. Slow down, young buck. You haven't seen that.
Matt, I would remind you that I was a Republican candidate in Virginia in 2009. So
no, you were fine, DJ. Let's talk about number one, he can't file a piece of paperwork correctly. Number two, he's got ethics problems. Number three, his campaign is being run into the ground every day. And now at the last minute, the NRCC, the National Republican Congressional Committee, is basically trying to rescue his campaign and take a candidate who is a la the Republican conservative Corey Stewart-esque Republican and make him into Mitt Romney. That's not going to work. People can sense phony, and they're going to sense phony when he suddenly 15 days before the election starts talking about pre-existing conditions and how he's going to protect Social Security and Medicare and the things that he used to rail Denver on. Suddenly he cares about. Cameron Webb's going to win that race by 4 or 5 points.
Ooh, he's a little closer than that. It's going to be a whisker, maybe a point or two.
And Chris Haxman, Cameron Webb is the best Democratic candidate in this cycle for.
Yeah, I get that. You're still going to have a presidential turnout year, and that's. It might save Bob Good. I don't know.
I'm with Saxman on this. That district. That's one of the districts that I think Trump will do better this year than he did in 2016, even with Charlottesville involved. And, as much as I like Cameron Webb, I'll believe he wins when I see him win.
Right. I mean, that's a reach district. Everybody knows it. We're all playing the confirmation bias game. Look at the numbers. Everything 4 years ago no one was going to win. Donald Trump was going to lose, massive landslide, and look what happened. This is what happens in presidential elections. Republicans come home. This is what they do.
You're operating under the assumption that the electorate's the same. I would counter that with the early vote. We're going to see astronomical turnout. We're already seeing new voters.
That doesn't change the electorate turnout.
I think a higher turnout changes the electorate considerably.
No, I'm not sure. My apologies, Chris. I'm not sure I'm not certain that we are seeing a higher overall turnout as much as we're seeing. And again, we'll have to see on election day itself. This could very well be Democrats cannibalizing their election day vote. That's something that always worries me. I think, I do think the Virginia electorate has fewer Republicans in 2020 than in 2016. It's why I think Trump will do worse in 2020 here in Virginia than he did in 2016. But that's statewide, not for a district like Virginia 5th. Again, I'd love to see it, but I don't see it.
Look, Democrats are voting early. Democrats have voted early. They're doing it. They're racking up the early lead. Amanda Iovino, we had on WPA Intel here a couple segments ago. I had her on another Zoom Facebook today, and she said of the early ballots in Virginia, 49% have been Democrat, 22% have been Republican, and 30% have been independent. So you can make the case that the Republicans are basically a third party.
How would she know? How would she
also,
know when we don't have registration?
They're polling it.
Oh, okay.
Well, also, though, I mean, VPAP put this out. This is just the stat out earlier today. 7% of the 1 million plus ballots that have come in were people that did not vote in 2016. So that tells you the change of the electorate, because there's an expanded voting time, and we're already right around 40% of 2016 turnout, and we still have roughly 2 weeks.
That still doesn't get you. We've had net migration since 2016. But who's leaving? We're going to find out.
But do we also have an issue where we have a psychological game? Does this then take away the enthusiasm that Republicans are trying to build towards Election Day if they hear day after day after day of all of these people showing up to vote and voting Democrat? Does then this become a mind game of, well, look at how many people have already voted. Do I bother showing up on this last day, or do I, whatever?
I'm not so sure about that, because Democrats have always won, quote unquote, the early voting sweepstakes. It has never stopped Republicans from voting on election day before. There may be reasons for Republican turnout to be depressed this year. I don't think that a bunch of Democrats voting early will be the reason why.
Yeah,
I'm just saying that it's on the news. The long lines, Georgia, it's a national story. So yeah, they've gotten it in the in the past, but it's, I don't think look, 2020, that's like the answer to everything. Nothing is the same.
And also, though,
hang on a second. Let me just control the conversation. I appreciate everyone want to jump in. That's a good sign. But let's just let me move this thing around so it's not all jumbled. Facebook and Zoom don't necessarily sync up all the time. But let's try to unpack this early voting construct. Does it really, do more people vote as a result? Who knows? It could have a deflationary or an inflationary eventuality for both parties, and that's just part of what the political parties have to do these days. It's smart of the Democrats to bank as many votes as possible, because you never know what's going to happen in an election, and the earlier you get your people out, and especially the ones who are swinging that way, get them out and get them decided so they don't switch back. Not that the many will in this election cycle, but it does bode well for the Democratic Party to have as many people showing up as from an organization, because they're not knocking on doors like they normally do. Let's go to Matt Walton.
Well, and I've seen some polling that indicates about 4% of the electorate is persuadable at this point. So it's pretty much baked in, and it's just a turnout operation and game. And when we look at that, we're seeing here in Virginia, we've basically had 3 straight elections where Virginia as a whole has really come out and punished Republicans at the polls. 2017, 2018 in the congressionals, and then the shellacking of 2019 at the General Assembly races. And so as that trend and pattern continues, after 3 elections, that starts to be really baked into the electorate. I mean, here in Henrico County, Chris, where you and I live, we only have 1 member of the House of Delegates, and part of his district, most of his districts in Goochland, where we used to have 3 folks there. So that baking in is something that is going to happen in 2020, and I think at a much firmer level.
Well, again, that was the Trump factor, and has been since 2017, 18, 19. That all was suburban revolt against Donald Trump. Let's go to Matt Hall.
gives me the tough question. I think early voting always. Can I pass on this question? I'm not the good one to answer this question. Pass.
Okay. DJ?
Yeah, I would say history tells us that early voting by itself has not had much of an overall turnout impact. If there is higher turnout in 2020, it is because of the nature of 2020. It's not because there was early voting. And again, we're not really going to know until election day itself and all of the votes are cast. But I would simply say it is clear that Democrats are definitely winning early voting, and they're winning absentee voting here in Virginia. And it's the pressures on the Republicans to get their vote out on election day. I didn't think it would be enough even before. I certainly don't think it will be now.
Let me ask you this question on early voting. Is it too early? I mean, we're 45 days out. We can open up the voting booth. I mean, I think it should be like 2 or 3 weeks before the election, but 45 days, it seems like it's way too long.
I would say.
Let's go back to Matt Hall so we can actually answer a question this time.
I actually voted the very first day that it was given the opportunity to.
Just answer the damn question, son.
The question, I think the thing is, I think it encourages people to vote when they have so many options and they're not nailed down to one specific day. And so I think it increases turnout. I don't have any empirical evidence in front of me, but that's just my thought.
Do you think we should close the voting to 2 or 3 weeks versus 45 days?
No!
Thank you, Matt Walton.
Whoa, I'll actually give you a one-word answer. No, I think what we have is great.
I'm Chris Noe.
No, I don't know. I feel torn. I'm sorry. I'm pulling Matt Hall here. I feel torn as running campaigns. It's, how do you, when you have election day spread out over 45 days, it's really hard to shape your campaign when you're trying to figure out money and everything. But as a voter, I think that it's the easier it is for people to vote, the better.
Okay, that's fine. Clear. DJ?
I would say I don't think stretching the early voting to 45 days really does much for the electorate as a whole. The base gets to vote earlier, but the persuadable voters are still persuadable. They're going to hold off voting because they really don't know what they want to do.
So they'll do it anyway. Okay, fine, fair. 4 wrongs and 1 right. Let's go to the 7th. Freitas Spamberger. What are we seeing there, Chris Noe?
That one I don't really have my finger on the pulse of that one at all. So I'm gonna pass on to one of the guys on this one.
Let's go to Matt Hall. He doesn't answer questions.
I will say that I think honestly Spanberger has this one, and I hate to do that. I like Nick Freitas. I think he's a good guy. I just think that the Spanberger is just raising so much money, and she's on TV all the time that I truly do believe that it will be close, but I think Spanberger is doing very well. And she's a Chamber of Commerce Democrat. She's like the one monster we can't kill because she steals our talking points. And I'm not calling her a monster by any means. She's probably a very nice person. She steals our talking points. She's a Chamber of Commerce Democrat. We can't combat that when she talks about being better for small businesses. And we know that, and she's got the Richmond business community wrapped around her finger. So I think that it's going to be a Spanberger's to lose.
Yeah, I think the inability to, go after her on right to work, I think has hurt the Republican Party because she got the Chamber of Commerce nod while she voted for the PRO Act, which eliminates all right to work clause across the country. Matt Walton, what do you think of that race?
I watched that debate last night as well, and Nick, tried to throw the kitchen sink. Abby came across a little bit on the flatter side. I think more even keel would be the more appropriate term. I think with that race, one of the most effective ads that has been run in Virginia is the attack ad against Nick Freitas and his vote regarding autism. That ad that came out, I forget who actually sponsored that ad. I think it was third party. But that was a very damaging ad, and I've had some people that aren't very in tune to politics mention that ad specifically that live in the 7th district here. That was a very effective ad. But DJ? I think Abby wins probably 3-4.
Yeah, I don't think I think Enrico and Chesterfield have very much realigned, particularly in the Trump era, and I think Spanberger is going to take advantage of that. So I think she's home and dry.
Yeah, it's a competitive district. Obviously, the national trend would tend to favor Nick. We'll see what happens there. I think right now it's trending towards Spanberger, but you never know how some of these issues play out and what voters are actually going to end up doing.
Can I offer a dissent to
Spanberger's a very smart politician, though. Yeah, DJ.
I was going to say I'm not so sure the national trend would favor Freitas in the 7th.
I'm just speaking structurally from the 2016 numbers to today.
That's the 2016 numbers are not the 2020 numbers. I think the national trend in that district is against the Republicans now. Again, the suburban revolt against Trump is very much alive in that district. It was why she won in 18, and I think it's why she's going to win by a larger margin in 20.
A larger margin, a larger percentage, or a larger number?
It'll be a larger, she will win by a larger percentage in 2020 than she won in 2018.
Okay, that's a legitimate bid there. Let's turn our attention to the presidential election because everybody wants to talk about that one. God help us. What is your take on the Electoral College today? Let's go it over to. That's a little tough one for Matt Hall. Let's go to Chris Noe on that one.
Hey.
All day. We're gonna be here all day with that one.
The electoral. I don't know. I mean, I sit there and I play with that map, and I think that, all the indicators seem to be that, it's Biden's to lose, that he has learned from some of Hillary Clinton's mistakes as far as not ignoring battleground states, and he's put Trump back on his heels in some places like North Carolina that should not be that close. But, after 16, who knows? I feel like I want to go into a bunker on November 3rd and just, come out when it's all done.
DJ.
The 538 model right now gives Trump a 12.5% chance of winning. Now, I know that Dungeons and Dragons is not a popular game with the Bering Drift set, but I do play it, and I know that's the equivalent of rolling a 1 on a D8. I've rolled a 1 on a D20, a 20-sided die, so I know Donald Trump can win the election. He needs to have a number of things go right for him. He needs to get Georgia, Iowa, Ohio, and Texas out of the statistical dead heat category. He needs to establish leads there, and he needs to get Florida, North Carolina, Arizona, and Pennsylvania into the dead heat category, and then hope that an excited base and voter suppression and left-wing disillusionment can carry him across the line like it did in 2016. That's a lot to happen over 2 weeks. I'm not going to bet. I wouldn't bet that way, but it is possible.
Yeah, I don't think we'll see James Comey in the next 2 weeks. Let's go to Matt Walton.
Anytime a Republican has to, in the last 2 weeks as a presidential candidate, go and campaign in Georgia, you know where it's heading.
Is he going to campaign in Georgia?
He's already campaigned in Georgia, in Macon. It was this week. And
last week, so not the next two. So 2 weeks out, he's not going to be in Georgia. Do you know he's going to be campaigning in Georgia?
I've heard through the grapevine that he's probably making a trip back to Georgia, but at the same time, I also think Texas is a toss-up. If not, yes.
No.
If not a lean Trump, I'm telling you, the turnout in Harris County. I think Biden wins Texas by anywhere from a half point to a point, because the energy is.
You put money down on this stuff because.
I'll put it.
Bravo Sierra walks. We're gonna start a betting board on Matt Walton's numbers because you're pulling this stuff out of nowhere.
No, I know. I'm talking to real life Texans that are on the ground, people that worked in the Bush.
Do you talk to real life Texans?
People that worked in the Bush 43's administration that know Texas politics. I'm telling you, it's there.
Real live Texans and everything.
I've seen the polling. From what I've seen of polling in Texas, it is a margin of error state right now. That is true. Joe Biden can win it, but that's one of those where I'll believe it when I see it. because that's just
this is the same thing. The Democrats have wanted Georgia, Texas, and Arizona. They made the mistake emphasizing that last time. They left behind the blue wall, thinking Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania were home free, and they barely lost. A lot of the electoral college. I mean, if you look at the electoral college 2016 to 2020, Donald Trump is actually slightly ahead, if you can imagine, in the Real Clear Politics averages of polls right now. Not necessarily that they're accurate or not. Matt Hall, do you finally have an opinion on any of this?
I have an opinion, and I think all of you are wrong. I think the president is going to win. I think he will win via Minnesota. I think Minnesota is the key to everything. DJ, don't you laugh. Minnesota is the key. Minnesota, if the president can win Minnesota, game over. And
that's true. I mean, if you can switch out Arizona from Minnesota, you hang on. But the key state, what's the key state in this election cycle, Chris Noe?
I think the key state, I don't think there's just one, but I think that we'll know early if Pennsylvania.
Boom. Correct.
And then Florida close on its heels.
I think Pennsylvania. Go ahead, DJ.
If Biden wins Florida, it's over. And the reason I say Florida over Pennsylvania is because of timing. Florida will count its earlier votes much sooner than Pennsylvania will. If Biden loses Florida, then yeah, it's pretty much up to Pennsylvania.
Matt Walton.
Pennsylvania.
Matt Hall, did you finally answer that one?
Pennsylvania and Minnesota. I stand by my argument.
Minnesota. I asked for one. You give me two. Congratulations. Your theme is continuing to without hesitation and without deviation. So congratulations.
Well, he's making up for his non-answers by over-answering this time.
Thank you, DJ.
Ouch.
Okay, so what do we make of the recent allegations or interest in Hunter Biden's laptop and emails? Will this have any impact on the election? Let's go to Matt Walton, who will say no. Go ahead.
I will say I'm not sure yet. I mean, I just saw that there's coming a big press conference here in any minute now by the FBI regarding an impromptu press conference regarding something about elections and election security. Who knows what that could be? So that when you talk about Comey, you may see Ray make an appearance, but that just has just blown up on Twitter. So I don't know. I think from all indications it is something potentially disinformation from Russia. And
what's your evidence of that?
None. There is none.
Let's go to DJ.
The director of national.
Let's go to DJ. You got the Lincoln Project memo. Go ahead, DJ. Go ahead.
Okay. First of all, the evidence is Durkach saying that he has another Hunter Biden laptop. So this makes it pretty clear that this is some sort of coordinated effort. By the way, Matt Walton, from what I've seen on Twitter, the DHS is saying that Iran was behind those supposed Proud Boy emails to Democratic voters. That might have been what the press conference is about. As for what impact this will have on the election.
The answer to the question.
Yeah, answer your question. I think it will actually help Biden because Trump will overplay the card at the debate tomorrow night. And
that's an analysis we can use. Chris Noe, go ahead. Matt, you're done.
Well, I think it also smacks of reruns. I mean, all of a sudden we're back to chanting "lock someone up," and we're talking about emails. I mean, it just and you have the president going around, insisting like everywhere that he can that Barr should arrest Biden, and I think that that's going to taint whatever comes out. It's going to look coordinated, and that it's the same song that we heard 4 years ago, and sort of are people going to just see it that way this time?
But also,
so the impact, Matt, not you. So, Chris Noe, what's the impact on the election?
Minimal. I think we have so many people who are voting, and there's so many people who have established opinions about these people already. Yeah. I mean, negative things work when they reaffirm what people already believe. People on the right, people in the base, they think Biden is crooked, but it is nothing like it was with Hillary Clinton. It was just confirmed 4 years ago. It was confirming people's suspicions. This time it seems a little bit out of left field, and it seems like it's a retread of a desperate act from 4 years ago.
Matt Hall?
I want to make the point that opinions about people can absolutely change. 4 years ago, I left my ballot blank when it came to the presidential election. This year, on the very first day, in the very first 30 minutes that I was able to, I cast my ballot for Donald J. Trump because of the record that he has changed our country with a tax cut that has affected my household. I brought home more money because of the Trump tax cut.
So in answer to the question, will the Biden laptop emails
affect? Absolutely.
the
Absolutely.
2020 presidential election?
Yes. Yes, it will absolutely.
There you go.
This
was a pinata, man. All you got to take the club and hit it.
I think truly when folks get to reading about this and they actually get into that New York Post article, which was censored by Twitter and was censored by
No, it was not.
Absolutely.
Twitter and Facebook are private entities. They can't censor anything.
Matt Hall, please.
It was censored by Twitter. It was censored. And the fact of the matter is that had pertinent information about if Joe Biden was sold access as vice president. That is killer in a campaign. And if they can find that and justify it and the FBI can bring it about, absolutely, it's going to be an issue.
Well, here's where we go down to the issue. The issue is whether or not it is counter narrative to the narrative of the Biden campaign about Joe. It's not about Hunter. We know Hunter's got his problems. We know he was selling access for financial gain. We know that. It's been going on. That's not, and if it isn't, it's negligible impact anyway on the Joe Biden campaign relative to the antipathy for the president of the United States, who has built that up over the last 5 years on his own. The problem for the Biden campaign is if it can become counter narrative to the 4% that Matt Walton said is persuadable enough in swing states, in swing areas, then it can be. The counter narrative is that Joe Biden is not a decent guy. If that can be established in enough time, then it can have an impact on the election. That's what it comes down to. It's not about Hunter. It's about what the impact on Joe Biden. Let's go to Chris Noe.
But the other thing that comes up that counters that is that as far as casting doubt on it, the president was impeached for trying to find dirt on Joe Biden. So I think that's going to taint anything that comes out. Is this poison fruit that we've known that the president's been, digging around for a while?
Okay. Anyone else on this one? Matt Walton from the Lincoln Project.
Well, I'll just say the Senate Homeland Security Committee by Ron Johnson, they dug into this. They found nothing. And also to go back to what Matt said about.
Do you have the laptop?
No.
Okay.
Not that I'm aware of. But to go really quick with the article that came out, the person that wrote the article didn't want to put his name on it because he couldn't stand by it. They put somebody else's name on it and talk about journalistic ethics. That is wrong. So that speaks.
So are the emails true or not?
Yes.
You got to back it up. It doesn't matter where it came from or how it got there. Is it factual? I want to know if it's factual or not. That's it.
The story itself was not factual because the story itself asserted that the story itself asserted that Biden pushed for Viktor Shokin to be fired because Shokin was investigating Burisma. He was not investigating Burisma. In fact, the reason
Hunter Biden's laptop.
The laptop is utterly irrelevant to any of this.
Okay.
And in fact, the only thing that we know is that Joe Biden has said he never had a meeting with whoever that guy was. We have no idea of we do not know whether the emails are real or not. Some may be real, some may be Russian fabrication. The FBI did have a hold of this laptop last year and did not bother to hand it to the Johnson committee. So clearly it wasn't relevant to what Johnson was doing. It was probably more relevant to the fact of potential Russian interference in the election. And if the FBI is investigating that, there is no way that those people are going to trust John. How high do you need me to jump, Donald Trump, Ratcliffe, with any of that information?
Disagree. I think it's potentially very dangerous for the Biden campaign. And it does get them off their narrative going forward. It could be a very dangerous problem after the election, even if he wins. I think it's a problem. If it shows any culpability by the vice president at the time taking money or using it from a chance to take money from foreign sources of income. And I think that's why the debate commission changed
the only presidential candidate who we know took money from foreign sources is Donald J. Trump. He took $15 million from China 3 years ago while he was president of the United States.
Is that wrong?
Of course it's wrong.
So is it wrong for Joe Biden to do it?
He didn't do it.
How do you know?
There is no evidence that he took any money.
What if evidence is found?
It's not going to be found.
Okay, so it doesn't exist.
No, it doesn't exist.
Because it hasn't been found yet?
It doesn't exist because it didn't happen.
That's
because you are spinning
counter narrative. This is my point about being counter, because Joe's such a nice guy, he wouldn't do something like this until the evidence is found. I'm not saying it's there.
This evidence wasn't found. This evidence was manufactured by a Russian asset named Rudy Giuliani.
And
okay, he wrote those emails, right? Okay.
Look at Giuliani Partners' history in Moscow.
Okay.
I'm telling you, this is a Russian misinformation setup, and it has been for 2 years.
Okay.
Look, Giuliani got
nothing's pointing. Look, there's no evidence of that, and you're saying that that's evidence.
Yes, there is evidence of that. There is evidence of that. He's been working with Derkach, who is a Russian agent.
Evidence, man. Come on, man. Consistent. Jesus.
I have said there is no. Don't you do this to me, Saxman. There is evidence of Russian misinformation. I have said there is, and the evidence is Rudy Giuliani repeatedly meeting with Andy Derkach, who is a Russian agent in Ukraine. That is well known, as much as Giuliani tries to deny it. We know he's been working with Derkach. Derkach himself is trying to get himself in on this. This is Russian interference. This is a Russian disinformation campaign. And this time, the voters are not falling for it as much as Matt Hall would like them to.
Okay, well, the only thing I think we know that evidence is true is that Rudy Giuliani and Jeff Toobin's days on video are now over. So let's move on to 2021. What are we looking like for the Democratic nomination for governor?
It's McAuliffe to lose, but he'll probably lose it.
Wow.
Matt Walton.
I think it's Terry all the way, except Jennifer McClellan is the one that will topple him if anybody does topple him.
Matt Hall.
I think Jim McClellan's the strongest candidate in that field.
For the nomination, for the general?
For the general. For the nomination, I think it's Terry McAuliffe solely because of money. But in the general, Jennifer McClellan presents a really great opportunity to show that Democrats have moved past, the Terry McAuliffe era. And I still think that it's not Terry's Democratic Party anymore. I think it's a more progressive Democratic Party.
Chris Noe.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that, Terry's got the money, he's got the money tied up, but I don't know that this Virginia Democratic Party is going to enthusiastically get behind another white guy.
I disagree. I think Terry McAuliffe is the prohibitive favorite here because the dominant part of the Democratic Party are white liberals in Northern Virginia. And the numbers there are staggering in that regard. Look how Joe Biden did in the primaries just this past year. Let's move on to lieutenant governor. That's a mixed field for the Democrats. What's your make of that? Is it just who knows at this point? Let's go to Matt Hall.
I'm just so disappointed and so just frustrated that Sam Rasool is running for lieutenant governor, like the biggest do-nothing delegate ever, and just so liberal. That's going to be
So any thoughts on that race?
That race is a race to the left.
Okay, can be fine.
But
I don't know. I'm Prince William. It seems like everyone here is running for lieutenant governor. I mean, we have 2 delegates and a school board chairman. So, I mean, here it feels like it's this very local slugfest.
Well, that just divides the vote of Prince William County. What's Babir Latouf like?
I'm sorry?
What's the Prince William County board chairman like? His name is Babir Latouf?
Barbara Lateef.
Barbara Lateef, there you go.
I mean, I think that trying to run for anything from school board, particularly, trying to jump statewide, but right now, anyone trying to do anything who's involved with the schools, other than trying to run the schools when we're in the middle of this COVID pandemic, when we have parents who are at home with their kids. We don't even have a calendar yet for kids going back to school in Prince William County. So I think that that's a vanity run, quite frankly.
Okay.
And I think that he's trying to set himself up to be in whatever the governor's administration is following next year.
He's on the board of visitors at UVA, so he might be a Secretary of Education candidate.
Yeah.
Let's go to DJ McGuire.
I really do not know who is going to win the Democratic nomination for lieutenant governor. I'm just looking forward to Lee Carter losing the nomination for lieutenant governor.
Is he announced? Is he a candidate for real?
I haven't heard anything about him running. I mean, we have Elizabeth Guzman and Hala Ayala.
Right.
Who are both running.
DJ, do you know anything about Lee Carter?
I thought I heard or read somewhere that he was running, and it really made my day because that meant he wouldn't run for re-election. Perhaps I dreamed it.
From your lips to God's ears.
There's that consideration. A lot of people running for these offices will they run concurrently for their House seats at the same time. That's something to consider.
I mean, they are here.
They're running for both?
They're running for both.
Genius. Matt Walton.
Right now we give the do nothing delegate probably the inside track but it's put every name in a bag and just throw it out on the floor. I mean, at this point, because name ID is so low for most everybody in that race. It's 6-1, half dozen other, pull a name out of the hat.
Yeah, I think it's Guzman and Ayala 1-2 right now, and I think Ayala eventually goes to number 1. I do see Sam Rousseau moving up because of his work on the Green New Deal. And I think that's we're going to get a lot of push. I think Lee Carter can make a pitch there, because when you have a field of 8 or 9, it doesn't take much to gather up all the Democratic Socialists in the state and make a plurality win here. I wouldn't be surprised if Lee Carter actually won at all. Sorry to say, wouldn't vote for him, obviously. Let's go to Attorney General Attorney General Mark Herring run against Jay Jones and Shannon Taylor. Someone's been mentioning Charneil Herring, but I think it's basically 3: Herring, Jones, and Taylor. Where do you see that one, DJ?
I would say if you were betting, bet on the incumbent. Herring. I mean, the statewide officials have all had their own scandals to deal with, but I think Herring has handled it better than anyone else, and I think he's in a prime position to get reelected.
Agreed.
I agree with DJ on that.
Let's go to Matt Hall.
I agree with DJ. DJ's spot on analysis. I agree.
Okay, let's go to Chris Noe.
Yep. No, I think DJ's got it penned correctly.
Matt Walton.
I'll make it a trifecta. Excellent analysis, DJ.
4. So let's I think Herring, Jones, Taylor in that order. I think Jay Jones is a rising star in the Democratic Party and will probably run for and win Attorney General in 2025 if the trend is still in favor of the Democrats, which I don't think it will be as strong as it is today if Biden does eventually win on next Tuesday. Let's go to the Republicans running for governor. Who do you like who do you think is ahead and winning right now? And who do you think is going to win? Let's go to Chris Noe.
I don't know. It's the only person who I have gotten any campaign stuff from is Amanda Chase. So, I mean, I've gotten mail from her. So that's
really, she's putting mail out there already. Strong.
So I guess
strong move. You're putting mail out there?
I'm sorry?
You're putting mail out there already? That's a strong move. She's spending money. Matt Hall.
The dirty little secret in Virginia politics is that if Donald Trump loses, 25 people will be in the Republican nomination for governor.
25.
It'll be a wide open field. I don't know where it's at.
Okay, who do you think's going to win?
I don't know. I really don't.
Who do you think's winning? Who do you think's ahead right now?
Winning. I think Chase has got strong name ID, but I think Kirk Cox can raise a lot of money.
Okay, Matt Walton.
Will it be a convention or a primary? That's the big question to ask first. I mean,
great answer.
But I think in a primary, I think where you have to get a plurality, Amanda Chase can easily get 15, 20% in a turnout election, if there's 4 or 5 folks running, I hate to say it, but a primary would be to her benefit. Other than that, Kurt Cox or Emmett Hanger.
Okay, DJ.
I think Chase is the front runner at present, and if it is a primary, so long as she has more than one opponent, then I think she will be nominated. If there is only one opponent, then she could possibly lose to whoever that one opponent is.
I agree that she is in the lead. I don't think that lead is going to be sustainable as the rest of the field catches up to her and does what trailing candidates do, and that is attack. And they will do some damage there, and they'll do it smartly. But I do think the field, I listed it out at, if I can pull up my rankings. If you didn't see my rankings that came out, we'll do it right now. It was Amanda Chase, Kurt Cox, Bill Carrico, Glenn Youngkin, Senator Emmett Hanger, Pete Snyder, Pete Doran, and Neil Chatterjee. If they decide to stay in the race, I don't know. And that's the way I see it right now. Organization, I think Bill Carrico has a good opportunity to get in the lane with all the law enforcement officers as a former state trooper and their families throughout the state. You talk about getting to 50,000 pretty quickly there with that kind of an opportunity. But I think Kurt Cox makes a strong candidate. Glenn Youngkin makes a strong candidate. He's an outsider with a lot of money, and that might be something that Republicans find enthusiasm. Let's move to the basic toss-up between Glenn Davis and Tim Hugo, Punit Alawalia, and Lance Allen for lieutenant governor. How do you see that one, Chris Noe?
Anyone but Tim Hugo? Is that an acceptable answer?
Oh,
He's not my favorite.
Damn.
We picked up on that.
Wow.
The anyone but thing was kind of a lead for us.
Can we ask why?
No, not yet. DJ.
The winner will be the candidate that embraces the QAnon movement. If none of them do, I honestly don't know.
Wow. You think it's that strong of an element in the Republican Party?
Yes.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Really?
Yes.
Well, I agree with the element of QAnon, unfortunately. And there's some recent polling that kind of backs that up. I right now would say Glenn Davis, just because of his prior campaign in 2017. And that's who I would put number one right now.
Fair. I think it's a good analysis, Matt.
I think it's a wide open field. I think anybody could get into it and make it completely different. It's so, I mean, all the candidates have a strength, but they also have a weakness, and there's nobody so far that's really making me roll my socks up and down, and there's nobody that really just excites me. So I truly think that
unpack the roll socks up and down analogy there. I'm kind of lost on that one.
I miss the best lieutenant governor candidate, Jill Vogel. She was the best.
She's very good candidate. Very good candidate. So DJ, let's move to the Republicans for Attorney General. Basically, no one's really announced yet, but it looks like Jason Miyares of Virginia Beach and Bill Stanley from the Danville area, and also perennial candidate Chuck Smith from Virginia Beach. What do you make of that one?
The Virginia Beach candidate has the larger base, so you would have to give the nod to them for now, absent other factors.
DJ, your analysis has been spot on throughout this entire segment. Congratulations. I mean, really just knocking it out of the park. Matt Walton, you probably want to agree with DJ here.
Very good analysis. If Tony Pham does jump in with his now taking over as the acting director of ICE, I think he could jump on the Trump train a little bit and ride that to potentially win the nomination.
Matt Hall. Good point. Good point, Matt Hall.
I think Miyares is the strongest candidate in that field. Bill Stanley, I love him. He was my first boss in politics, but he does this to us. He says he's running, but he doesn't really run. Kind of gets on my nerves. I love Billy. Billy, I love you, but just,
I think he's waiting for the election results to turn out because I think the election results are going to make a big impact on 2021. Let's jump to that one. Chris, did we talk to you about Attorney General?
No, but I don't have anything to add to it. So
Perfect.
I thought I was going to get to just slide by without having to admit my ignorance on this one.
No, look, it's better to say I don't know than do what Matt Hall does. You know.
I said pass. I just said pass. I just said I didn't know, so pass.
He's so easily poked, isn't he? It's so fun.
Pass.
Roll up my socks or not.
Make the socks roll up and down.
Let's talk about 2021 in a Biden presidency. What does it look like for Republicans in 2021? DJ, since you've been so spot on, we'll save you for last.
Okay.
Let's go to Chris Noe because I don't want you to tip your hat to the rest of the kids.
What is it? I mean, it depends. Does the QAnon Trump factor become energized because they feel like they have to win things back, or does the party decide that they would like to win? And so I think that it's a toss up either way.
Okay, Matt Hall.
It's hard to say, like, who's the leader of the party at that point. Is it Nikki Haley? Is it Don Jr.? Like, we don't know. And I don't think we will know. And I think it's okay to admit that we don't know because I want to know.
Republicans have a chance with Biden as president in Virginia 2021.
Probably not.
Still no, really.
Still no. I it would have to be like, I just don't see it. I don't see Virginia voting for a Republican governor at least for the next 5 years.
Okay, Matt Walton.
Kind of playing off the QAnon aspect. It depends on where the party goes. I mean, a YouGov poll, a Yahoo News YouGov poll came out just the other day that said of Donald Trump supporters, 50% believe that top Democrats are involved in elite child sex trafficking rings. Basic QAnon, 50%. And, that tells us where the party's going. And unfortunately, here in Virginia, that is a losing proposition. Whoever leads the party, that is the key. And you're going to see a bitter fight for the soul of the party. We thought we had an autopsy done back in 2016 or 2012 about the party, but the party is in decline here in Virginia. That we need to get back to a Bob McDonnell, Bill Bowling-esque, Barbara Comstock style of Republican if we want to win statewide. And that's the plain and simple. The party is losing the center, and I fear that it's probably gone for good.
DJ McGuire.
I think the missing factor that we have to take into account is the Biden administration. The Biden administration will either move from success to success, in which case policy will be moved towards the left, antagonizing Republicans and making Democrats feel complacent, or the Biden administration will have various failures, which will make the Democrats as a whole look bad. Either way, 2021 should be a better year for the Republicans, certainly than 2017 was. The question is, do they take advantage of that opportunity with someone like Kirk Cox? Do they risk dividing their own party with someone like Emmett Hanger, or do they completely throw caution to the wind and just tell the electorate to go screw itself, pardon my language, with Amanda Chase? That's up to them.
I think again, DJ, you have just run the table here in your analysis. Yes, 2021 will be better for the Republicans, and yes, will be competitive inside the margin of error because of the lower turnout models that will be occurring. From 2008 to 2009, it went from 74% turnout in Virginia to 40% turnout. For the McAuliffe election, it was 43% turnout, Ralph Northam 47%. So the deflation in the Democratic turnout in the Northern Virginia and Richmond suburbs is very important for Republicans. and they're going to have to nominate someone who can put a different brand on the party straight away. To your point, though, Matt Walton, about QAnon, those numbers are staggering. It looks like they might be even a more powerful force than the NRA in the Republican Party.
Mm-hmm.
If that's the reality, the Republican Party is going to be a third party in Virginia.
Well, look at what Denver Riggleman calling out QAnon and the pushback that he's gotten from that. I mean,
well, let's talk about Denver Riggleman, because he's very seriously considering running for governor, not as a Republican. The likelihood of him running as a Republican, I think, is 10% at this point, and he's meeting with a leading official in the Republican Party tonight to talk about his affiliation with the Republican Party going forward. I don't think it's going to go well for the GOP. What's your take on? We're going to come back to you, DJ. Don't you worry. You've been just white hot right now, not white race, obviously. We wouldn't want to go down that road. This screen is wide enough. Let's talk about Denver Riggleman, Chris Noe.
I think that there's room, if the party leans into the QAnon part of the party, and I mean, I will say that it is a big enough issue that I teach in our homeschool co-op, and QAnon is part of my lesson plan for this week, because we are talking about Kennedy assassination conspiracies as a bridge to talk about how to identify a conspiracy theory today. And so, I mean, this is something that, people are aware of. If we lean into that, I think that there's room for the middle to coalesce, sort of the Lincoln Project, lost Republicans to come together. And if they have someone with the name idea of a Denver Riggleman to get behind for a statewide office, we could start to see something begin to form here in Virginia.
Matt Hall.
Denver Riggleman is a great man. I just don't think there's a path to governor. I think there's a path for him to, in 2 years after Bob Good loses, to get his old congressional seat back. I just don't think there's a path to governor.
Okay. Matt Walton.
I think the path is 10 miles wide, and he could drive a truck down the middle and win the governorship. Look at the feud that has erupted with John Fredericks. So he called into your radio show, Chris, and unloaded on Denver Riggleman.
That unloaded on me.
Yeah, and that shows you where the party is. And when you have Donald Trump on a national televised town hall, basically saying, "I don't know what QAnon is," bullshit. I mean, you've got the president, the leader of the Republican Party, basically endorsing QAnon, and that's where the party's going. And unfortunately,
that's crazy.
I can't accept it. And Denver Riggleman, Denver Riggleman can. Yeah, third party he runs, I bet you.
I think he runs. I think he's got a stronger chance than people like Matt Hall think. But Matt Hall, I think your analysis was still very good.
Thank you.
The only thing I would add to
Fine
that
squirrel. Go ahead, DJ.
Is if Denver actually takes the plunge and runs as an independent, that actually makes it more likely that Amanda Chase wins the Republican nomination, because he may pull a lot of his type voters out of the Republican Party altogether. In terms of November,
but they can still vote in that Republican primary.
They can still vote in the Republican primary. I'm just not sure. I don't know how many of them will, and I don't know if it would be enough to stop Chase. We'll have to see. At that point, it then matters who the Democrats nominate. If the Democrats nominate someone who can also appeal to the center, I think it is very hard for Riggleman to win, although I think he would come in second. If the Democrats go hard leftward in their with their nominee for governor, yeah, Denver would have a shot there.
Yeah, because let's be honest. You don't have to get to 50; you have to get to 35. That's a different math. That's different math in a lower turnout modeling. And any good predictive analytics modeling firm, polling firm like we have WPA, they can find those other voters who typically don't show up in a gubernatorial election who are presidential voters. So the data will be very refreshed. So I think it's an open field in 2021. The Republicans do have a better chance. That's why you have so many people running for the Republican Party. And I think Democrats are in a bit of a transition now as well. But I do think, let me ask you this. Let's finish up with this. How important do you think the 2024 presidential election is going to be comparatively to this one? Let's go to Matt Hall, since he started. He's on a streak right now. He's on a roll. He got one.
I think it will be less competitive. I think there's way more on the line about the direction of the country. Do we want, there's stark policy differences. And when it comes down to me, I want to make sure that the judges that are confirmed are Amy Coney Barrett and not Elaine Kagan or Sonia Sotomayor. I want conservative judges. I want a tax cut. I think it's more important 2020 than it is 2024.
Okay, wow, you were doing so well there. I'm going to have to send you my analysis.
Thank you.
How old are you?
28.
Okay, that settles it. Matt Walton.
I think you're.
I love you, Matt. You're just such a good guy. You're so good-hearted.
I try to be.
You really are.
I'm just a podunk kid from Southwest Virginia. I never
play that podunk. You just have the accent. Don't play that. You're smart. We get it.
I grew up in a town of 300 people. There was a McDonald's and a gas station, and that was
the McDonald's in my hometown go out of business. Don't even talk about that. Let's go, Matt Walton.
I think you're gonna, as soon as January comes around, 2024 begins, and you're gonna see. I think you're going to see anywhere from Tom Cotton to Josh Hawley to Don Jr. I think he's gotten the political bug and he feels like he might run. But here's the important X factor too. I predict that if Donald Trump loses to Joe Biden, he will run again for the Republican nomination in 2024.
Wow. Wow.
I agree, Matt. I agree with him.
That is a great prediction. Matt Walton, you pulled it out of the fire, young man. Fantastic. I love that.
I agree. I agree with Matt. I think Trump Sr. will run again in 24.
You made the night. That's a great prediction. Chris Noe.
I don't know about running in 2024. I mean, he will be quite a senior citizen at that point.
Will he be as old as Joe Biden today?
Yeah, he would be.
But there's more hamburgers and Kentucky Fried Chicken on the president's plate.
It'll be Tanner.
So, but I think that part of the issue is that we think that like Trump is going, if he loses in November, that he's going to go quietly into that good night. I think that I'm not sure that he would want to run again in 2024, but I think that he wants to be the kingmaker, and he's going to make everyone kiss the ring, and pledge them, say he's going to be trying to set up, his own little personal fiefdoms all over the country with his own followers. And that, I think, is more of an X factor as far as what happens with the party is, because then he won't even have, being president to keep him busy. He will have so much time to Twitter at that point.
DJ McGuire.
If Donald Trump loses, he will buy OANN and turn it into Trump TV.
He does have the money.
Yeah,
I agree with DJ.
He'll borrow it from certain banks. That would actually push Fox News in a more reputable and credible direction, but that's another issue. I think Trump will try to consider letting one of his kids run, but then decide that none of them are up to it. So yeah, I think he would at least try it again in 2024. He'll certainly do it in 2023.
Yeah, I think that Matt Walton was a great point when I hadn't frankly considered that he'd try it again. I do think he's going to start his own TV station, whether he buys OANN or another one. He'll find the financial backing. The money in that business model is out of this world. He'll crush it. But 2024, getting back to the question, will be a far more important election than 2020 because we're setting up a new generation of leadership in America. This is the end of the baby boomer generation. It's with the very tail end. We've been 28 years of the boomers coming in after 92's election. So we'll have a new generational perspective. You'll have close to 50 candidates on the debate stage in 2023 vying for the Democrat and Republican nominations for president. Nikki Haley has already got a fundraiser scheduled next week actually tomorrow, I think, in Iowa. So,
I'm gonna have to dissent slightly. If Biden and Harris win, I don't think you're going to see that many candidates on the Democratic side. I think Harris will establish herself as the front runner. She'll have opponents, mind you, but I don't think it'll be like the 10 or 20 that we saw in 2020. I think it'll be likely less than 10.
Can I ask the two Lincoln Project people, do you think Biden serves his full term?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think he does. I don't think he runs for another term, but I think he serves his full term.
We'll
I think
we'll come back to that after the election. Thanks again for a great panel, Matt Hall, Matt Walton, DJ McGuire, Chris Noe. Look forward to more analysis next week, hopefully, as we get further down the pike here. Closer, thank God, to ending this election cycle. Just 13 short days away. Thanks for joining us. Back to baseball. Y'all have a good night. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks. Good night.